Frank Warren's joined us. Your initial thoughts on that tonight from Billy Joe, Frank?
I think it's a continuation of the Lemieux fight. He boxed really extremely well. He got clipped in there, and I think he actually done better in getting a shot, landing a shot and build than Lemieux did. And I just thought he'd done extremely well. You know, it was the art of boxing, hitting and not being hit, done his job. And then the guy got, you know, tried to get back in the fight a bit, but it was considering also the fact he's not been in a competitive fight now for what, about 17, 18 months, extremely well, and he's a two-weight world champion.
Did you have any doubts coming in tonight?
My only doubt was the weight. You know, he was coming up from super middleweight. This guy's naturally a big guy. He's fought a cruiserweight, and he came down, obviously, to super middleweight. I knew he'd be strong, and he was strong, but Bill handled it. You know, he's class told in the fight.
Richie, how did you read the job tonight by Billy Joe?
Up the first 5 rounds, he was, 6 rounds, he was punch perfect. Obviously, he got clipped, and that changed the complexion slightly, and then he went back to on the outside and didn't take many risks. But I thought it was a perfect start from him. He's very good with what he does in terms of his judgment of distance is excellent, and he just keeps that gap and just keeps working away. Good variation. His movement, mainly when he's moving off to the right, then he's moving away from his opponent's right hand, and he puts his combinations to. So the first 4 or 5 rounds, he was punch perfect, Paul, and the combinations were there. And Andy, for me, it looked like he was cruising to victory.
Some of the stuff you saw in there was quite sensational. You know, you could compare it to Pernell Whitaker or maybe Hector Camacho. The defensive work was very hard to hit, and that's what makes him so hard to box. He's so clever. Now, he got caught with a good punch, but Giuseppe has a horrible style to box against because he's trying to draw you in, he's trying to lull you in. That typical German style where he keeps his hands up tight, lets you do all the work by throwing punches and exposing yourself, and then he'll always throw one big winging punch to end the exchange, and it's always likely to hit you. Billy Joe Saunders picked up on it pretty quickly and was always wary of that.
I think what was disappointing from Sufi's point of view is I'd like to ask them what was their game plan going into it, because he didn't really change. Like Andy says, he just keeps the hands very high. His feet were terribly slow, and there's just no way was he going to beat Billy Joe Saunders either in counter-punching or putting a lot of pressure on. So I don't know what they were thinking going into the fight. Maybe they didn't think Billy was as good as he is, but it was a punch-perfect display.
But you can apply that, though, the same as when he fought Lemieux. What did they think they were going to do? He's got great footwork, he's got great reflexes, anticipation, and he's got fast hands. He's got a great boxing brain. He's very underestimated fighter, and you know, this fight will be really great for him. I want to get him back out as soon as possible, and I think you're going to see a much even better Billy Joe Saunders.
Just before we get to that, Frank, back to you, Richie, please. How did he react, Billy Joe, when I wouldn't say he got clipped, but he got a little surprised by something that came the other way?
He got caught with a couple of right hands, and he had to readjust a little bit. He does the sensible thing here. He just holds on, gets a few seconds, but then after that, he gets on his bike and just recovers. So I thought he responded pretty well, how a champion should respond. Holds on here. Look, there's the right hand. There's another one coming. All of a sudden, okay, his senses are scrambled slightly, but then he just holds on for a bit. Then he goes on the outside and recovers very well. I thought it was a good response.
Now, Andy, to you, because obviously you worked in the United States for so long and you've got great connections there. Is that a step from Billy Joe tonight in the direction of the superstars? Alvarez, Golovkin, we'll start there. What is your view on that?
Well, Frank will probably know better than me, but he has such a style that it's tricky for anybody. He's going to cause everybody problems. But having that belt in there, having a title now, gives him a bargaining chip and gives them kind of entices them, and also showing that he can be hurt this way. Also might open them up to fight.
Does that add to the mix potentially, Frank? Do you think?
I hope so. That's what we've been craving for the fight. You know, I'm bored. Everybody keeps saying he signed for the fight twice with Golovkin, so it's not like we've tried to duck it. Now he's got his belt, he's got a seat back at the table, and I'm quite sure that they're fights that will have to be, you know, can be and will have to be made in the future. There's no doubt about it. And remember, this has been shown back live in the States on ESPN, so people are seeing it. They're seeing it. As you say, they makes you think there's a chink in the armour because he got clipped. But, you know, 12 rounds of boxing, you're going to get caught.
Yeah.
So you've never given up on Golovkin and Saunders, have you? You still think now that that's possible?
I really do think, you know, Bill on his night, you know, I really think he has the beating of Golovkin, and I think he does it with Canelo, and I really do believe it. You know, people may think I'm mad, but I think he does. I think on the night, I think Bill being in tip-top form condition, having had fights behind him, I think he's got the beating of both of them. And I think that's why we found it very difficult to make the fights.
Here's a flight of fantasy, but once Donnie Lalonde and Sugar Ray Leonard fought for both the middleweight and super middleweight titles in the same fight. Now, technically, could you be in that situation if you went to Alvarez?
I've got to tell you something. I don't care if there's any titles on the line for the fight. We just want to make the fight. If it's for the 2 weights, whatever, who cares? Just get it on. Remember, Bill can fight at middleweight. He can do both the weights. I mean,
what would you want him to do?
I want him to fight at the best weight that suits him. But more importantly, I just want to make the fight. I think at either weight, he beats them.
He's mentioned Callum Smith there. That's another intriguing option for Britain, certainly, Frank.
Well, I spoke a couple of weeks ago to Joe Gallagher, who's his manager, and we discussed the fight, and he said to me that his next 2 fights have panned out for him, but they'll take it in next year. I said, well, there's no open secret that Callum will probably move up to light heavyweight by then. Forget about all that. Let's get it on. I hope that Callum defends his title on the 1st of June successfully in the States. What a great fight for the fans that would be. That'd fill a stadium up. Those two together, their styles will make a classic fight.